The hospital hallway smelled like lemon cleaner and rain. Outside, thunder rolled over Houston's third ward, the kind that makes windows hum. Inside room 12B, the storm had already broken. "Don't bring that curse to my house," Dion's mother said, her voice flat as stone. She stood at the foot of the bed in a starched wrapper the color of dry hibiscus, silver bangles stacked tight on her wrist. She did not look at the babies. She looked at the woman who had delivered them, Saad, with a gaze sharp enough to cut fresh yam. Dion didn't raise his eyes either. He looked at a spot on the tile and then down at the manila folder in his hands. Inside it, the marriage license they'd framed 2 summers ago. The paper was creased where he'd folded it into the folder in a hurry. His hands shook. Saad noticed the tremor, but the rest of him was iron. "They need you," Saad whispered, her throat raw from hours of labor and crying. "Look at them, please." On her chest, swaddled together in a single cot of soft hospital blanket, lay the twins. 2 perfect faces, 2 crowns of tight black curls, 4 hands searching the air as if they were swimming back toward light. Their bodies met at the lower ribs. A single shared heartbeat thudded against the blanket like a drum under a palm. The pediatric surgeon had called it thoracoamphilopagus, long as a river, strange as a dream. Conjoined twins. A rare thing, a hard road, but not an evil. Not a curse. "Look," Saad said again. Dion finally raised his gaze. He didn't look for long. He saw the place where the babies were joined, and his mouth twisted into a shape Saad had never seen on him. Not in college when he begged her to dance under those LSU oaks, not when they signed their lease on the townhouse with the big fig tree, not when they first spoke the word parent, like it was purely joy and not a responsibility with gravity. He took the license from the folder and tore it down the middle. The sound was small. It fell into the room like a dry leaf. Dion dropped the halves on the chair and stepped back from the bed, from the babies, from the drip line whispering beside Sada's arm. He didn't say, "I'm sorry." He didn't say anything. He just shook his head like a man who had walked into a room and found it already on fire. "You knew something was wrong," his mother said, not to Saad but to the air. "All those dreams. All that craving for bitter leaf. I told you to call Pastor Eli and you laughed. You see." She snapped her fingers and the bangles chimed. "You see." Nurse Tasha moved quietly, checking the needle in Sada's hand, adjusting the blue clip on the baby's toe where the tiny light blinked. There was a softness in Tasha's face that made Saad want to lay her head down and never lift it again. But the softness was a thin cloth over something stronger. "We don't do that in here," Tasha said. "We don't use words like curse for children." "They are not children," Dion's mother said. "They are a sign." "A sign of what?" Tasha asked. "Punishment. Shame." Sada's auntie, Igioma, who had flown in from Atlanta when Saad went into labor, stood at the window and pushed 2 fingers under the Venetian blinds. Rain had begun to pin the glass. "A child is a calabash," she said in the gentle way she had of making proverbs sound like lullabies. "What you pour in will be what you drink later." Dion's mother gave her a look that said she had not come to drink anything poured by anyone here. The pediatric surgeon, Dr. Herrera, had been kind, decisive. Surgery might be possible, she'd said, when the twins were older, if scans said it could be done without breaking the drum of that one shared heart. "Many conjoined twins live," she'd told Saad. "They go to school, they laugh, they fight over crayons like every other set of siblings." She'd set a schedule for tests and talked about specialists in Austin and Dallas, people who had held lives like this gently and skillfully. Saad had clung to that like driftwood in a flood. But now Dion was at the door pushing it open. His mother's wrapper whispered as she followed him into the hall. He didn't look back. He didn't see the way the baby's eyes searched when his footsteps faded. Tasha put a hand on Sada's shoulder. "Breathe," she said softly. Saad breathed. Her chest hurt. Her heart was too big for the room. "Don't call him," Auntie Igioma said. "If a man cannot stand in the room when his children take their first breath, what will he do when the world breathes fire?" Saad moved her palm to the twins' backs and felt the rise and fall of their joined ribs. They smelled like milk, like rain, like the exact shape of a blessing that comes wrapped in a difficult package. She counted 10 fingers and 10 toes and watched the small lips part like they were trying to pronounce her name. She promised to God, out loud this time because some promises had to be heard, that she would not abandon them. Not in the doorway, not in the dark. By evening the storm outside loosened. The nurse drew the blinds. The room dimmed to the soft blue that comes before sleep. The baby's breathing evened, their 4 hands making slow stars in the air. Saad closed her eyes in the hour when exhaustion feels like a soft thief. She woke to the sound of arguing. In the hallway, Dion's mother's voice ricocheted off the tile. We cannot let her bring them home. The neighbors will talk. The church will talk. This news will follow our name back to Port Harcourt. These things ruin families. These things, Auntie Igioma repeated from the doorway, voice low and dangerous. You're calling children things now? Dion's voice was in there too, tight as a fist. I didn't ask for this. Inside the room, the twins startled at the noise, then settled when Saad touched their cheeks. She hummed the lullaby her own mother had hummed, an old Yoruba tune about the moon carrying stories on its back. The melody held the babies like a net. Pastor Eli arrived just before midnight, wet collar, expensive shoes. He walked in with that air some pastors wear, like a borrowed suit, a little too big, a little too shiny. He lifted his hands and declared the room full of strongholds and unclean spirits. He didn't ask for the medical file. He didn't ask Saad how she was healing or if she'd eaten. Sometimes, he intoned, the enemy comes to mock a covenant. Sometimes he takes what should be one and makes it entangled. Like a braided crown, Auntie said under her breath. Beautiful if you aren't afraid. Pastor Eli stared at her. We will pray, he said loud enough to reach the hall. But we must also protect the family name. Sister Saad, while we seek deliverance, you should not return to the husband's house. It is best you stay elsewhere. Temporarily. He smiled, but it was the kind of smile that made Saad feel as if someone had moved the floor. Elsewhere. Temporarily. Words that meant out. Saad swallowed. I have nowhere else. You have me, Auntie said. You have my little apartment. It is not much space, but it is space with love. Dion didn't meet Saada's eyes. He stared at his phone like it might spell him out of the room. By morning, discharge papers lay on the tray. Tasha came with them, her braid pulled high and her smile gentler than the morning light. We'll schedule the scans, she said. I put my own number on the magnet for the fridge. Call if you so much as frown and think it might matter. They wheeled Saad out into the damp day. A nurse carried a clear plastic bassinet customized to hold the twins, a little bridge that supported their joined bodies. Outside the sliding doors, the rain had become a thin curtain. The hospital awning dripped. Dion's car idled at the curb. He stood beside it, eyes on some distance none of them could see. His mother hovered behind him, lips pressed tight, a scarf tied over her hair now like armor. You can come to the house and collect your things this afternoon, Dion said, like he was discussing utilities. My cousin will be there to help. It's best if we take space. Space, Andy said. When these babies came into the world with none to spare. Dion's mother stepped forward. She pressed a folded paper into Saada's hand, a check, her name spelled wrong. For the first weeks, she said. Until you find your way. Saada's throat burned. I had a way, she said. You asked me to leave it. They drove in 2 cars, Auntie's dented Camry in front, Dion's gray Highlander behind. The Camry smelled like shea butter and the cedar beads Auntie strung in the rearview mirror. The twins made kitten sounds in the seat beside Saad, soft breaths, small grunts, a rhythm that began to etch itself into her bones. At a red light, a woman in a pickup looked into the car and smiled at the babies with that open Texas kindness that floats free of conversation. Saad breathed easier. At the townhouse, the fig tree dropped a fat leaf onto the walk as if it were signing something, witness to a transaction it didn't approve. Inside, the living room looked as it always had. The photo of Saad and Dion at Galveston with gulls wheeling behind them, the blue couch with the throw Auntie had crocheted. The same Miss Hurt. Dion's cousin Lenny was already there boxing. He had strong arms and kind eyes Saad had once trusted. Now he kept his gaze slippery, skittering off hers like a stone that didn't want to sink. They worked in a quiet that roared. Auntie took the kitchen, folding towels into neat squares and stacking pots. Saad sat on the couch, the twins at her side, while Lenny pulled clothes from the bedroom closet and laid them in piles. Keep. Toss. Donate. Dion hovered in the hall like a voice he couldn't swallow. An envelope slid under the front door. No knock. No doorbell. Auntie lifted it from the rug, turned it over. No address. No stamp. The paper was thick, the way wedding invitations feel, as if what's inside might be heavier than ink. Saad opened it with her thumb. 2 sheets fell into her lap, a hospital ledger stamped paid in full, and a handwritten note on creamy cardstock. The handwriting was elegant, the kind that lives in old letters and legal papers. A pen had pressed each word with care. Your daughters, the note read, are not a curse. They are a sign, but of endurance, not shame. When the time comes, do not separate them. They must remain as they are for the task they have been given. Someone will try to force your hand. Do not let them. The signature was a single initial looping E. A car door slammed outside. Dion moved to the window. Lenny straightened like a man who'd heard his name in the wrong mouth. Andy's fingers tightened on the envelope. On the couch, the twins' breathing changed, deeper than too deep. One little chest rose while the other seemed to hold its breath, as if the single heart inside them had decided to divide its labor. The pulse oximeter Saad had brought from the hospital blinked and then flashed a color it hadn't shown before. The front door burst open without a knock. A woman in a navy blazer stepped in, rein on her shoulders, a badge at her hip. Behind her, Pastor Eli hovered like a storm cloud and Dion's mother stood, chin high, as if she had brought the sky down on purpose. "I'm from Family and Protective Services," the woman said, voice clipped, eyes on the twins. "We've received a call. There are concerns about the infant's welfare and a refusal of necessary medical intervention." The pulse oximeter alarm began to scream. Saad pulled the twins to her chest and looked from the badge to the note to Dion, whose face was a map she could no longer read. "Ma'am," the woman said, stepping forward, hand outstretched, "I'm going to need you to come with me." And then the power went out. The townhouse dropped into a shadow that felt like the inside of a closed hand. The only light in the room came from the blinking oximeter and the hall where rain, pouring hard again, drew silver lines down the glass. Somewhere in the dark, a voice Saad did not recognize whispered her name. The dark wrapped the room tight and for a second nobody moved. Rain hammered the fig leaves outside like 1,000 fingers. The pulse oximeter's shrill cry drilled through the quiet. "Plug in the backup," Auntie Igioma said, already feeling along the wall for the extension cord she had packed on instinct. "Saad, keep their chests clear. Let them breathe." "I need eyes on those babies," the woman in the navy blazer said. Her voice was steady, trained. She lifted a small flashlight from her pocket and clicked it on. The white cone found the twins' faces, their searching hands, the place where their bodies met at the lower ribs. One face was dusky, lips darker. The other was pinking back to normal. What's happening?" Dion asked. The question sounded like it belonged to a boy, not to a man who had torn his marriage license. "They're sharing a heart," Andy said. "When one cries, the other pays the bill. Give me space." "Unclean spirits don't like light," Pastor Eli said into the dark, too loud. "We must pray with oil." "We must not," the woman in the blazer snapped, never looking at him. "Ma'am," she told Saad, "I'm Officer Hill with Texas Child Protective Investigations. We can talk about the call in a moment, but right now I want to help you stabilize them. Do you have a bulb syringe? Oxygen?" "Hospital sent a small tank," Saad said. Her voice was calm because fear had moved past shouting. "In the diaper bag," Nurse Tasha insisted. Andy's hands were already there, zipping, feeling metal. "Found it." "Good," Hill said. "We'll crack this valve a notch. Slow and steady. Don't blast the face. Angle toward the cheek." She passed the flashlight to Auntie, who held it with her mouth like an old carpenter while her hands worked. Saad cupped the twins' heads, brought the mask near the dusky twins' nose, humming that moon lullaby under her breath. The oximeter scream softened as oxygen slid into the shared chest. In the doorway, Dion's mother whispered in Igbo, words sharp and wet. "This is not a child, this is a signboard. The whole street will read it." "Then let the street learn to read well," Auntie said, not turning. The alarm fell to a steady beep. One baby's lips pinked. The other kept blowing small bubbles, a sign of steady breath. Saad felt the drum of the single heart even out, knocking hope into the room. The house lights shuddered back on. The fig tree's shadow crawled across the rug like something alive. Everyone blinked as color returned to faces. "Thank you," Saad told Officer Hill. She meant it. It was a full thank you, the kind you give in a storm. "Now," Hill said, straightening. She took in the faces, the pastor, the mother-in-law with her chin lifted high, Dion's cousin hovering near the boxes, Dion himself stuck in the hallway like glue had set around his feet. Someone called to report that these infants were being denied necessary medical care and that the mother intended to refuse a life-saving separation. She looked at the twins, then at Saad. "Is that true?" Dr. Herrera's voice from the hospital came back to Saad like a lifeline. "We will watch. We will scan. If surgery is safe, we will plan with wisdom, not panic." "No," Saad said. "It is not true. The surgeon set appointments. We are following her plan." "Who called?" Auntie asked Hill, though her eyes had already found Pastor Eli like a compass finds north. "Say the name with your mouth." "I can't disclose the reporter," Hill said almost gently. "The law protects them. But we investigate. We don't seize first and ask later. Then you see with your eyes," Auntie said, jabbing a finger toward the twins. See how they breathe better when they are calm. See how the mother's hands know the rhythm. Pastor Eli cleared his throat. Officer, the father's family is concerned about spiritual neglect. The mother has refused deliverance. There is history. Hill held up a hand. Spiritual opinions are not my lane, Pastor. I look at safety, at medical facts. Her gaze snapped back to Sod. Show me the discharge papers. The medication list. The follow-up schedule. Sod had made a folder. She always made folders. Auntie pressed it into her palm and she opened it with fingers that shook only a little. Hill scanned the forms. Dr. Herrera's notes, the schedule for imaging in 10 days, the nurse's magnet with a handwritten number and a heart beside it. Hill's face, cool until now, warmed half a degree. The hospital expects to see them. Good. She looked at the small oxygen tank, at the oximeter, at the careful way the twins were supported on a foam bridge. This is not neglect. This is work. Dion's mother made a sound like a scoff breaking. You will ignore the father's wishes? Hill turned to Dion. Sir, do you wish harm to come to your children? Dion's mouth opened and closed like a fish pulled too fast from deep water. No, he said finally, and the words sounded new in his mouth. Then we speak facts, Hill said. She tucked a card from her blazer into the folder. I'll document what I saw. We'll keep the case open until the scans are done. If anyone pressures you to consent to something not medically recommended, call me. If the father's family interferes with appointments, call me. And if I come back and find any sign that these infants are being used as symbols instead of treated as children, I will not be kind. Her eyes landed on Pastor Eli when she said the last part. The pastor lifted his hands as if he could catch the words and let them slide through his fingers. We only want what is best. Then stop using words like curse, Hill said, and for a second even the rain outside paused to listen. When Hill left, the house felt bigger, as if one wall had pushed back a few inches. Dion sank into the chair by the boxes, elbows on knees, face in his hands. The posture was old. It reminded Sod of the afternoon his scholarship almost fell through and he thought school was over. Back then she had marched into the financial aid office like a soldier and come out with answers. Today she had marched oxygen into a small shared lung and bought them all time. The creamy note lay on the couch where it had fallen. Auntie lifted it and held it up to the light. This paper is too fine for foolishness, she murmured. Who is he? Sod turned the card over. At the bottom, in faint raised letters she had not noticed in the dark, was a mark, a tiny crest showing a lion and a book. Around it, the words Eakin Foundation for Children. She didn't know that name, but she knew a fact when it rattled a door inside her. Someone with money had found her address without a stamp. Someone who believed in the twins as they were. Someone who warned, do not separate them. They must remain as they are for the task they have been given. Someone who knew enough to put paid in full on a hospital ledger without a return address. What task? Dion asked, head lifting, eyes red. What are they talking about? Task. The task of being, Auntie said softly. Sometimes that is the hardest assignment. Spare us your riddles, Dion's mother snapped. That note is witchcraft. Trap. We must burn it. We will keep it, Sod said. Her voice surprised even her. It had iron in it now. We will keep every paper that says our children are not shame. Lenny had been quiet, but now he shifted. Eakin Foundation does grants, he said, not meeting anyone's eyes. We did their security cameras at a clinic in Alif. Their director is Nigerian. People call her Auntie E. That's F Alumide. F, Auntie repeated, tasting the word. A lion and a book. I like her already. Dion's mother's mouth thinned. Money women who meddle. Rain softened to a fine hiss. The house held its breath. Sod stood slowly. The twins' weight against her chest felt right, like a promise she would not release. Auntie Helmy packed the rest. We'll go to your apartment tonight. We'll make room. We'll make a plan. Tomorrow I'll call Dr. Herrera and ask about the scans. And I will call this E. She touched the embossed crest. If she paid something, I will thank her. If she wants something, I will ask her what. You'll do all this without asking me? Dion said, but there was no fight left in him. Only a kind of tired astonishment. You left me in a hospital room to decide alone, Sod said, not unkind. I am deciding. He looked at the floor again as if it might open and swallow the conversation. His mother pressed a hand to his shoulder. He shrugged it off, so small a gesture that only the three of them saw it. Auntie moved through the rooms like a soft storm, folding, sealing boxes, writing labels. Lenny carried 2 out to the Camry and came back for more, eyes on his shoes. Pastor Eli, seeing that no one was listening, slipped toward the door with the silent speed of a shadow losing its source. By dusk, the front room was a country of cardboard. The fig tree tapped the glass with a knuckle. Saad fed the twins with a careful spoon, the way the lactation nurse had taught her when latching was too hard. She sang under her breath. The baby's eyelids fluttered like moth wings. A knock came. 3 taps measured. A woman stood on the step, tall and slender, raincoat the color of smoke, a black umbrella tilted against the last of the weather. She was older than Saad by 20 years, maybe more, with close-cropped silver hair and eyes that had learned many rooms. Auntie? Auntie guessed, half smiling at the neat audacity of it. The woman shook her head. No. My name is Tori Grant. I handle legal work for the Eakin Foundation. Her voice was a low river. She lifted a waterproof folder. I believe this belongs to you. And I believe someone is moving quickly to take what is yours. Who? Saad asked. She did not have space in her hands for more fear, but the question opened anyway. Tori stepped inside, closed the umbrella, and set the folder on the table. Your surgeon called our director, she said. She was contacted by a private surgical center in Sugar Land asking for the twins' imaging, stating that the father had signed an emergency consent for immediate separation tonight. She looked at Dion and her eyes did not blink. They faxed a court order I have reason to believe is forged. Dion's mother made a small satisfied sound that died when Tori slid a copy across the table. At the bottom the signature was bold and sure. It was not Dion's. It was Sada's. Her name, perfect loops and lines, stolen from the marriage license they had kept framed over the couch. Someone, Tori said, tapping the paper once, used your signature to take your daughters for a surgery they may not survive. The room went so still the pulse oximeter's slow beep sounded like a drum. Auntie turned toward the door as if she could block a highway with her body. Saad clutched the twins tighter, felt the single heart knock against her ribs, and understood the shape of the fight ahead. From the street, a van door slid shut. Tires whispered on wet asphalt. Headlights brushed across the fig leaves, searching for the windows. They were already outside. The sound of the van's sliding door slammed through the twilight, echoing against the quiet houses like a warning bell. The headlights cut through the living room blinds, carving white lines across the boxes stacked near the couch. Auntie Igioma moved first, stepping in front of Saad and the babies like a soldier shielding her queen. Her scarf slipped from her shoulder, but she didn't bother to fix it. Close that light, she hissed. Lenny darted to the switch and the room dropped into dimness, just the blue blink of the pulse oximeter and the hum of fear. Who are they? Dion asked, his voice trembling. I didn't call anyone. Tori Grant didn't look at him. She pulled a slim black phone from her coat pocket and tapped quickly. Eakin security is 5 minutes out. But 5 minutes is a long time when someone's willing to lie to get a child. From the window, Auntie lifted the curtain just enough to peek. 2 figures moved by the van, both men wearing hospital scrubs and reflective vests with the words Sugar Land Pediatric Center printed across them. But something about their stillness didn't fit. They weren't rushing like medical staff on emergency call. They stood in the rain watching. One of them raised a clipboard. Mrs. Daniels, he shouted. We're here to transport the twins for emergency surgery authorization. The court has ordered an immediate procedure. Please cooperate, ma'am. Auntie's breath caught. They have your name. Sada's heart pounded so hard she thought the babies might feel it. She pressed them closer to her chest, whispering, You're safe. You're safe, my angels. Tori stepped toward the door but didn't open it. Her tone stayed calm, but her eyes were sharp. Those are not court officers. Not even hospital staff. Look at their shoes, black tactical boots. They're not nurses. Dion's mother clutched her wrapper, torn between fear and denial. Maybe they're from the clinic. No clinic sends a van at night without paperwork, Tori cut her off. If you open that door you're handing them over. Over to who? Dion asked. Tori didn't answer. She pointed instead toward the back door. Get the twins ready to move. But where? Saad whispered. Eakin Foundation has a safe nursery in the Heights. My car's down the street. If we move quietly we can get you out before they realize. Auntie grabbed the diaper bag, her hands shaking but steady enough to pack the oxygen tank, milk bottles and hospital papers. I'll drive, she said. No, Tori replied. You stay behind and delay them. I need you to stall. Auntie turned slowly. You think I will let my niece walk into a storm while I sit here folding wrappers? Saad touched her arm gently. Auntie, please. If they catch up with us you can tell the truth, that we left to protect them. Stay safe for me. You're all we have if anything happens. For a second Auntie's eyes softened, and the warrior inside her folded into grief. Then she straightened. Go before my heart changes its mind. Tori checked the window again. The two men were now walking up the driveway, clipboard in one hand, flashlight in the other. Rain beaded their sleeves. Through the back gate, Tori said. Move now. Saad clutched the twins tight, wrapped in a white blanket that glowed faintly under the lightning flashing outside. Dion hovered by the couch, torn between guilt and confusion. Dion, Tori said, pausing at the door, if you love your daughters, don't follow your mother's voice tonight. Follow the truth. Stay here, answer for what you know. But if you open your mouth to them... He nodded weakly, eyes fixed on the twins. I won't. The back door creaked open. Cool rain swept inside, touching Sada's face like a warning. She took a breath, stepped out into the wet grass, and followed Tori's shadow around the side of the house. The world had turned to silver under the storm. Streetlights blurred and puddles rippled as thunder rolled again. Tori led her through the narrow passage between houses, keeping low, her umbrella tilted sideways to shield the bundle in Sada's arms. Behind them came a sharp knock. Then another. Mrs. Daniels, open up. Auntie's voice floated through the rain, firm, commanding. You will not enter my home without proper warrant. Show it or go back. Tori's pace quickened. She's buying us time. Come on. They reached the end of the lane. A black sedan sat under a jacaranda tree, its engine silent but lights flickering once in recognition. Tori clicked a small remote. The car unlocked with a soft beep. Get in, she said. Saad slid into the back seat, the twins secured in a cushioned car cot. The oximeter blinked steadily, normal. Their breathing was soft now, trusting. Tori jumped into the driver's seat, tossed her wet coat aside and started the engine. Hold on tight. The tires hissed over puddles as the car pulled into the street. Behind them a pair of headlights flared, white, aggressive. The van had turned, following. They're tailing us, Saad said, her voice thin. I know. Tori's eyes stayed on the mirror. They won't risk a full chase in the neighborhood. Once we reach the main road, I'll lose them. But the van didn't slow. It gained speed, splashing through water, closing the gap. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed, the sound of something hitting the car's rear bumper. The twins stirred, whimpering. Sada's heart leapt to her throat. Tori gritted her teeth. Hold them steady. She swerved onto a side road flanked by abandoned shops and old brick walls. The van followed. Who are they? Saad cried. The same people who forged your signature, Tori said grimly. Someone wants control, money maybe. Medical foundations get millions for rare cases like this. But if they get their hands on the twins, they won't live through the night. The car jolted as Tori turned sharply onto a dirt lane. Ahead, an overpass loomed, a bridge where the rain pooled in shallow mirrors. She cut the headlights. The sedan coasted to a stop beneath the bridge's shadow. Stay quiet, Tori whispered. The van sped past the intersection above, its lights cutting briefly through the cracks, then fading. For a moment, there was only the sound of rain. Then the twins made a small cooing sound, the kind that was both fragile and whole. Saad exhaled shakily, holding them close. They're gone, Tori said. She started the car again, slowly this time, merging back onto the road in the opposite direction. We'll go to the foundation now. You'll be safe there. Who forged the papers? Saad asked after a moment, her voice trembling. You said someone used my signature. Who could even get that? Tori's jaw tightened. We'll find out. But there's something else you need to see first. She pulled one hand from the wheel and handed Saad a photo from the folder she'd brought. It was an old black and white picture, grainy but clear enough to make out faces. Two babies, joined at the chest just like her twins, lay sleeping in a hospital cot. Beside them stood a young woman who looked strikingly like Saad, same almond eyes, same faint dimple. Sada's breath hitched. Who is that? Her name was Miriam Daniels, Tori said. She lived in Lagos 40 years ago. She gave birth to twins like yours, and they were taken from her under the same circumstances. The foundation began after that tragedy. A woman named F. Al-Yamid made a vow that no mother of twins would ever face that alone again. Saad stared at the photograph, her hand trembling. You're saying this happened before? Not just once, Tori said quietly. Your family line carries something rare. Every 2 or 3 generations twins like these are born, and someone always tries to hide them, claim they're cursed, or use them for research. But F believes they are a sign, a bridge between lives. That's why she sent me. to stop history from repeating. Thunder rumbled again, this time softer, like a sigh. Saad looked down at her daughters, their tiny faces pressed together, their breathing in perfect rhythm, and she felt something deep inside her shift. Not fear this time. Resolve. Then I won't let anyone take them, she said firmly. Not family, not strangers, not anyone. Tori nodded. Good. You'll need that strength where we're going. They turned off the main road toward the city lights. In the distance, the Houston skyline glowed faintly through the mist. But behind them, two more pairs of headlights appeared, smaller cars keeping just far enough not to be obvious. Tori saw them in the mirror. Her hands tightened on the wheel. They're not giving up, she murmured. Saad looked out the window. The city ahead was still miles away. The night had just begun. And far behind, in the rain-drenched street they had escaped, Pastor Eli stood beside the van, his phone pressed to his ear. She's gone, he said into the receiver. But don't worry. We know where they're headed. The voice on the other end, calm, female, unfamiliar, replied. Good. Keep her running. Fear will make her easier to control. Then the line went dead. The rain eased into a whisper as the black sedan sped through the narrow road leading toward Houston's inner city. Neon signs from gas stations flickered across wet asphalt, casting blue and yellow glows on the windshield. The twins had fallen asleep in the car cot, their shared breathing steady now. But Saad couldn't rest. Every flash of headlights in the side mirror made her tense. She kept glancing behind them, clutching the edge of the baby cot as though her touch alone could shield them. Tori drove with one hand on the wheel, the other tapping a small GPS screen fixed to the dashboard. We'll reach Eakin Foundation's safe wing in 15 minutes, she said quietly. Once there you'll have police protection and medical supervision. Nobody gets in without clearance. Saad nodded, still watching the dark road behind them. Those cars following us, they haven't turned back. I know, Tori murmured. They're trying not to spook us. Probably waiting for the right place to box us in. Saada's stomach turned cold. Why are they doing this? Who could want my babies like that? Tori exhaled, glancing at her with a grim look. The forged signature came from someone with hospital-level clearance. That means one of two things. Either someone in Dion's circle got access through a staff contact, or someone inside the hospital sold it. Saada's breath caught. But Dr. Herrera wouldn't. She wouldn't, Tori agreed. But someone lower could. A research buyer, a data leaker. Conjoined twins with shared hearts are incredibly rare. Universities and medical corporations offer millions for exclusive rights to study them. And in this part of the world, all it takes is one desperate man with a grudge or a promise of money. Saad looked out the window, voice shaking. Dion's mother said they're a curse. But maybe she just wanted an excuse to get rid of them. Maybe she knew someone who'd pay to make them disappear. Tori didn't respond. Her silence was confirmation enough. A faint wail came from the cot. One of the twins stirred, tiny fingers clutching the blanket. Saad reached to soothe them, humming softly. The sound filled the car like a fragile light. Do you have any family outside Texas? Tori asked suddenly. Just my cousin in Atlanta, Saad said. Everyone else is back home in Nigeria. My father passed years ago, my mother too. Auntie's all I have here. Tori nodded, eyes narrowing at the side mirror. Then protect her number. Don't share your location. Anyone who knows your trail becomes a target. The headlights behind them grew larger. Two cars now, their beams merging, creeping closer. Tori's jaw tightened. They're closing in. Hold on. She turned sharply down a side street that curved toward a cluster of warehouse buildings. The sound of tires splashing through puddles filled the car. The sedan's wipers worked furiously as rain began again. The pursuers followed. One of the cars swerved ahead, cutting them off. The second closed behind. They're boxing us. Saad cried. Not yet. Tori slammed the brakes, shifted gears and spun the wheel hard left. The sedan skidded into a narrow loading bay between two warehouses. Metal fences blurred past. She killed the headlights, plunging them into darkness. The two chasing vehicles screeched past, missing the turn. Saad clutched her babies close, breathing hard. Oh God, thank you. Tori waited, listening. Outside, the only sounds were rain dripping off rusted gutters and the distant echo of engines searching. After a moment she whispered, they'll circle back. We can't stay here. She looked at her watch. We'll cut through the bay and exit behind the old textile factory. There's a back road to the interstate. You'll see a sign that says Eakin Children's Trust Home. That's the safe house. Saad nodded, her eyes glistening in the dim glow from the dashboard. Why are you helping us, Tori? You could have walked away. Tori's expression softened. Because I've seen too many mothers like you lose everything. And because I once had a sister, twins, conjoined, born in Port Harcourt 30 years ago. My parents were too ashamed. They didn't survive the separation surgery. Her voice broke for just a second before she steadied it again. Alumide saved my life after that. She gave me purpose. Now I make sure no one else suffers like that. The revelation hung heavy between them. Saad felt tears slip down her face. Then maybe God sent you, she whispered. Tori didn't answer, but her silence agreed. They eased the car back into motion, crawling through the empty industrial stretch. The rain was easing when Saad noticed movement ahead, figures standing under a flickering streetlight. 3 men. One of them, impossibly, was Dion. He stepped forward, his clothes soaked, eyes bloodshot. He raised both hands as Tori slowed the car. Stop, Saad said sharply. Don't. Tori narrowed her eyes. How did he? Before she could finish, Dion shouted, Saad, please, you have to listen. They told me you're being hunted. They said if I don't help bring you back, they'll hurt my mother. Then why are you here with them? Saad shouted back through the cracked window, her voice trembling. Behind Dion, 2 other men stepped out of the shadows, both in the same fake hospital scrubs from before. One of them reached into his jacket. Drive, Saad yelled. Tori slammed the accelerator. The sedan shot forward, splashing water high. One man lunged, but the car was faster. Tires screamed as they raced past, the wind slapping against the mirrors. Dion shouted something, they couldn't hear it over the rain, but the look on his face wasn't anger. It was despair. They didn't slow until they reached the highway ramp, where traffic lights painted everything red and gold. Tori's phone buzzed. She put it on speaker while keeping her eyes on the road. Tori, this is F. The voice was calm, older, yet commanding. You have them? Yes, ma'am, Tori said. They tried to intercept. Someone used Dion as bait. I expected as much, F replied. Listen carefully. Don't go to the foundation yet. It's compromised. Tori's eyes widened. What? They've traced our system. Someone fed them the route, F continued. You must head north, to the old compound in spring. I'm sending coordinates. You'll be met by 2 foundation guards. One's named Ade, the other Joyce. Don't trust anyone else. The line clicked dead before they could respond. Tori exhaled. Compromised? How deep does this go? Saad wiped her face, clutching the twins protectively. So even the safe place isn't safe anymore. Tori nodded grimly. That's what they do, turn protection into a trap. They sped onto the interstate, the city lights fading behind them. In the back seat, the twins stirred again. One opened her eyes, tiny dark marbles reflecting the streetlights, and smiled as if she somehow knew the danger and yet didn't fear it. Saad brushed her cheek gently. They're stronger than I thought, she whispered. Tori's gaze softened in the mirror. They always are. Sometimes the smallest hearts carry the biggest purpose. The road ahead stretched long and empty. Billboards passed like ghosts. Saad leaned her head back, exhaustion creeping in. For a brief moment, the hum of the tires and the twins' synchronized breathing lulled her into half-sleep. Then, faintly, almost like a dream, she heard a small voice whisper her name. Saad. She jolted upright. Did you hear that? Tori glanced back. Hear what? But Saad was staring at the babies. Their eyes were open now, both of them. And though their lips didn't move, the whisper came again, soft as wind inside her skull. They're waiting. The car swerved slightly as Tori looked at her reflection in the mirror. What did you say? Saada's face had gone pale. She held the twins tighter. It wasn't me. Tori's phone vibrated again, flashing a text from an unknown number. Turn around. They found you. Before Tori could react, headlights erupted from the woods lining the highway, 3 vehicles blocking the road ahead. Saad gasped. Tori hit the brakes. Tire screamed. Out of the rain and headlights stepped Pastor Eli, holding a Bible in one hand and a pistol in the other. He raised the weapon toward the car and shouted over the thunder, Give me the children, Saad. They don't belong to you, they belong to God. The rain stopped suddenly, leaving only the sound of the baby's breathing and the hum of the engine still running. Tori whispered, Don't move. But it was too late. Pastor Eli took a step closer, his eyes burning with something dark and wild. The rain seemed to hold its breath. Every droplet hung frozen in the air, catching light from the car's beams. Pastor Eli stood dead center of the highway, his soaked robe clinging to him, the Bible pressed against his chest like a shield. In his other hand gleamed the pistol, steady and unshaking. Behind him, 3 SUVs idled in a V formation, each engine humming low, headlights glaring white through the mist. Figures sat inside, silhouettes unmoving. "Give them to me, Sod," Pastor Eli shouted. His voice was no longer the smooth, sanctimonious tone she knew from church. It was hoarse, frantic, filled with something darker than faith. "You have no idea what you're holding. Those children are marked." Sada's grip tightened around the twins. "Marked for what?" "What? Well, because that's what I see when I look at them." "Blasphemy," he barked, raising the gun. "You dare defy God's revelation?" Tori's hand shot out, gently but firmly pushing Sod down behind the dashboard. "Stay low. Don't argue with a man who's lost his reason," she whispered. "He's stalling. The others are spreading out. They're planning to box us from both sides." Through the rain-slick windshield, Sod saw shadows emerging from the SUVs, 3 men in raincoats, walking in slow formation toward the sedan. One carried a metal case, another had what looked like medical restraints dangling from his belt. "What do they want?" she whispered. Tori's jaw clenched. "The twins? Either to take them for their own or destroy them before someone else can." A low wail came from the back seat, the twins, waking, sensing the tension. Their shared chest rose fast, the oximeter beeping erratically. "Shoo, it's okay, my loves," Sod whispered, her voice trembling. "Mommy's here." The high, urgent beep filled the car. Pastor Eli's eyes widened. "You hear that? Even the machine knows they are not meant to live apart from sin." He raised the pistol higher. "I will free their souls before science corrupts them. Don't you dare." Tori shouted, slamming her hand on the horn. The car blared, long, piercing, startling him. At that same moment she threw the gear into reverse. The sedan jerked backward, skidding on wet asphalt. The headlights from the SUVs flashed wildly as the car spun half around. Bullets shattered the windshield, glass raining across the seats. "Down?" Tori yelled, ducking low. Sod covered the babies with her body, feeling hot glass slice her arm. Her breath came fast, but she didn't cry out. She couldn't afford to. Tori gunned the engine again and veered into the dark shoulder of the highway, tires throwing mud in every direction. One SUV roared to life, chasing. "They're coming!" Sod screamed. "Hold tight." Tori twisted the wheel, the car fishtailing onto an exit ramp that cut through the forest line. The wipers squealed against shattered glass. Branches scraped the roof as they tore down the narrow path. Sod could barely see, but she heard the roar of pursuit behind them. Then, the sound of metal hitting metal. A crash. Tori looked into the mirror. One of the SUVs had misjudged the curve, spinning into a ditch. Fire flared orange behind them. "Good," Tori muttered. 2 left. Sada's heartbeat pounded in her ears. "We can't keep running forever." Tori's eyes narrowed. "We don't have to. There's an old service road up ahead, gravel, no lights. If we reach it, we can vanish for a while." But fate had other plans. A dark silhouette loomed ahead, another SUV blocking the narrow path, doors flung open, figures waiting. Their guns caught flashes of lightning. "Reverse!" Sod screamed. Before Tori could move, the side mirror exploded, glass spraying her arm. A bullet tore through the front tire. The sedan swerved violently, spun once, and crashed into a muddy embankment. Steam hissed from the engine. The twins wailed in fear. Tori grabbed her side, grimacing. "Go, take them. Out the passenger side." "What about you?" Sod gasped. "I'll hold them long enough. Go." She reached for her glove compartment and pulled out a small black pistol. "I don't miss." Sod hesitated only a second, then snatched the babies and crawled out the shattered door, her knees sinking into the mud. Rain poured again, cold and merciless. She stumbled toward the trees, clutching the twins tight against her chest. Behind her, gunfire erupted, sharp cracks echoing through the night. Tori's silhouette flared in muzzle flashes, then disappeared behind the wreck. Sod kept running. She didn't look back. Her bare feet slipped on the wet soil as she plunged deeper into the woods. The babies cried softly now, exhausted but still alive. Each cry pushed her forward. Lightning flashed, illuminating a small wooden bridge over a creek ahead. She raced toward it, but as she neared, she saw a figure standing at the far end. Dion. He looked drenched, disoriented, his face streaked with tears and rain. "Sod, stop," he shouted. "Please, don't run." "Why should I trust you?" she yelled, breath ragged. "You brought them here." "I didn't know." Dion's voice cracked. "They said they wanted to help the babies, that they could separate them safely. When I found out what they really planned, I tried to warn you. Lies, she spat, clutching the twins tighter. He took a step forward, hands raised. Look at me, Saad. Please just look. I'm not here to hurt you. Another flash of lightning and she saw it. A dark bruise across his cheek, blood on his temple. He'd been beaten. They locked me up after you left, he said, voice breaking. When I escaped, I followed their van. I swear to God, I'm not with them anymore. Saad hesitated. Rain poured harder, washing mud down the bridge in small rivers. Then a shot cracked through the trees, splitting a tree trunk inches from Dion's head. He ducked, shouting, "Run!" More gunfire erupted behind them. Go! Dion roared, sprinting toward her. He reached Saad just as she stumbled on the slick boards of the bridge. The twins wailed again. Together they dove behind a fallen log. Bullets splintered wood nearby. I can get you to safety, Dion gasped. There's an abandoned chapel up the hill. It's locked, but we can break in. Why should I believe you? Saad hissed. Because, he swallowed hard. Because they're not just after the twins anymore. They're after you. Me? They said you have something connected to that note from Ephalimide. A code, a message hidden in your bloodline. They said if you die, it dies with you. Saad stared at him, rain streaming down her face. What are you talking about? Before he could answer, a flare lit the night sky, red smoke spiraling above the trees. Voices shouted from behind, closing in. Dion grabbed her hand. There's no time. Run. They stumbled up the muddy hill together, crashing through brambles and vines. The forest thinned just enough to reveal a small stone structure ahead. A chapel, its wooden cross half-rotted, its windows shattered. Inside. Dion pushed open the door. It creaked but gave way. They tumbled in, soaked and panting. The air smelled of dust and old incense. Cobwebs hung from the rafters. Lightning flashed through a broken window, illuminating faded murals of angels and saints. Saad laid the twins on a worn church bench, covering them with her coat. Their tiny chests rose and fell in rhythm. Help me block the door, Dion said. Together they dragged a heavy pew against it. Now what? She whispered. Dion sank to his knees, his breath ragged. We wait, or pray. Saad looked down at the babies, then at the old crucifix hanging crookedly above the altar. I've prayed enough, she said quietly. Now I fight. Outside, footsteps approached, slow, deliberate. Someone kicked the chapel door. Then came Pastor Eli's voice again, low and venomous. You cannot hide in the house of God from the will of God, Saad. Dion looked at her terrified. He's here. Saad picked up a rusted metal cross that had fallen from the wall and whispered, Then let him come. The door shuddered under another heavy kick. Wood splintered. And in that moment, just before it gave way, the twins' eyes opened, glowing faintly in the darkness like two small lanterns. The beeping oximeter stopped. Dion whispered, What's happening to them? Saad turned slowly toward her daughters, whose joined chest pulsed with a soft golden light. They're protecting us, she said. Then the chapel door exploded open. And everything went white. When the white light burst through the chapel, it swallowed everything. The peeling walls, the broken pews, the rain hammering the roof. It was as if the world itself had paused to breathe. Then just as suddenly the light condensed into two small shapes, the twins still lying on the wooden bench. Their shared chest glowed faintly gold and for a heartbeat, every sound outside, the gunfire, the footsteps, went silent. Pastor Eli froze mid-stride in the doorway. His gun dangled loosely from his hand, his face twisting from anger into awe, then confusion. Behind him, the armed men hesitated, their silhouettes trembling against the storm. What is this? Eli whispered. His voice, usually so loud, broke into a rasp. Witchcraft. Saad didn't answer. She was kneeling beside her daughters, her hands trembling, her eyes wide. They're not witches, she murmured, her voice a whisper that somehow filled the whole room. They're a miracle. The twins' eyes opened in unison. Their pupils shimmered gold for an instant, and when they exhaled, a soft wind rippled through the chapel, warm, clean, impossible. It smelled faintly of rain and lilies. The candle remnants on the altar flickered to life without a spark. Dion, crouched behind the altar, gasped. Saad, do you see that? She nodded slowly, her heart pounding, tears cutting lines down her rain-streaked cheeks. Yes, I do. The twins blinked again and a single tear rolled down one of their faces. Yet it glowed too, turning to light before it reached the floor. Pastor Eli stumbled backward, clutching his Bible as though it might protect him. No. This is deception. The enemy disguises himself in beauty. But even as he spoke, the gold light began to spread, touching the cracked cross above the altar, the broken glass on the floor, the soaked wooden walls. Wherever it reached, decay seemed to reverse. Wood straightened, cobwebs burned away, colors deepened. The ruined chapel began to restore itself before their eyes. Dion whispered, This isn't evil. Saad stood, her gaze fixed on the twins. They were never evil, she said. You were all too blind to see. Eli's men started to step back, whispering among themselves. One dropped his gun, making the others flinch. The air was thick now, not heavy but full. It vibrated with something ancient, something that felt like memory itself. Pastor, one of the men muttered, we should go. But Eli refused. His eyes darted between Saad and the twins. You don't understand, he shouted. They are marked, descendants of the old curse. Every generation the twins return, bringing judgment. You think this is new? He gestured wildly. It has happened before. Dion's head snapped toward him. What do you mean before? Eli's face twisted. Ask your wife's family. Ask her grandmother, Miriam. She defied the council of elders. She gave birth to the cursed pair that destroyed an entire village in Port Harcourt. This, he pointed at the glowing twins, this is the same blood. Saad shook her head slowly. No, Pastor. You're wrong. But inside, a flicker of realization sparked. Miriam, the woman from the photograph Tori had shown her. The one who looked just like her. It couldn't be coincidence. The wind inside the chapel intensified, swirling in gentle spirals around the babies. Then, softly, so softly that only Saad could hear it, the same voice from before whispered through her mind. Remember her promise. Saada's breath caught. Promise? She whispered aloud. What promise? Dion asked, his face pale. The voice came again, two tones speaking as one, like a harmony sung inside her heart. She asked that we return until love replaces fear. Pastor Eli screamed. Enough of this. He raised the gun again and fired. The shot cracked through the chapel, but the bullet never reached its target. It stopped midair, hovering inches from Saada's shoulder. Then, as the twins blinked, it fell to the ground harmlessly, the metal gleaming faintly gold. Every man in the doorway fell silent. Impossible, Eli gasped, backing away. Saad stepped forward now, no longer trembling. The rain outside had softened to a mist. Her soaked dress clung to her, but her presence felt taller somehow, rooted, unshakable. You came here claiming to serve God, she said quietly. But you came to kill what you do not understand. My daughters are not your curse. They are your test. The men behind Eli looked at each other uneasily. One whispered, She's right. Pastor, this isn't human power. Eli's face contorted between fury and fear. Blasphemy. The devil tests the faithful with illusions. He turned as if to rally them, but they were already stepping back. Dion moved closer to Saad, still stunned but no longer running. What do we do? Let them see, she whispered. The twins made a sound, neither cry nor laugh, something between. A vibration filled the air, humming through the walls. Outside the storm broke fully. Moonlight spilled through the stained glass windows, painting the chapel in gold and blue. Eli's knees buckled. He dropped the gun. What are they? He whispered. Saad looked down at her daughters, then at him. Human, she said. But born with a light meant to heal what people like you keep breaking. Eli covered his face and began to sob, not loudly but the kind of cry that sounds like surrender. Dion turned toward Saad, his voice shaking. Saad, I didn't know. I swear. I was scared, but, seeing this, how could I have left you? She looked at him, the memories of betrayal burning fresh behind her eyes. Fear is no excuse for cruelty, she said. But if you mean what you say, then help me protect them. He nodded. I will. Whatever it takes. The gold light began to fade slowly. The baby's breathing steadied again, their glow dimming to soft warmth. The chapel was quiet except for the sound of rain dripping through the eaves. Tori's voice came from the doorway, breathless. Saad. Saad turned in shock. Tori was alive, her arm bandaged with a torn strip of fabric. Mud streaked her face, but her eyes burned with purpose. Behind her stood two figures in black jackets bearing the Eakin Foundation emblem. I told you I don't miss, Tori said with a faint smile. Saad almost laughed, half sob, half relief. You came back. I always do. One of the Foundation agents stepped forward. We've cleared the road. The rest of them are gone. You're safe now. Pastor Eli sank onto a pew, head bowed, silent. His men slipped away without a word. Tori walked closer, eyes widening as she saw the restored chapel. They did this. Saad nodded. Yes. And I think they've been doing it for generations. Tori exchanged a long look with her, then crouched beside the twins. F was right, she murmured. The prophecy wasn't about punishment, it was about renewal. Saad frowned. What prophecy? Tori met her gaze. F will explain everything. But for now we have to move. The people chasing you won't stop, not after tonight. Dion rose, still shaken. Then we all go. Together. Saad hesitated, then nodded slowly. Together. They gathered what little they could. As Tori carried the twins' cot, she looked once more at the chapel. The broken door, the glowing floor now dim, the strange peace that lingered. We'll come back here, she said softly. This place is marked. They stepped out into the dawn. The sky was clearing, pale gold light spilling over wet leaves and glistening mud. The air smelled clean, reborn. In the distance, sirens wailed, the foundation's reinforcements finally closing in. Saad turned to take one last look at the chapel. For a moment, she thought she saw a woman standing inside, a figure with gentle eyes and silver hair, watching. Then, as sunlight broke through the clouds, the image faded. Miriam, Saad whispered. Dion squeezed her hand. Who? My grandmother, she said. She's been watching all along. They walked toward the waiting cars. The twins stirred in Tori's arms, their tiny hands reaching toward the sunrise. For the first time in days, Saad smiled. She didn't know what lay ahead, F's prophecy, the truth behind her bloodline, or the enemies who still wanted them. But one thing was certain, she would never run again. As they reached the car, thunder rumbled far off, faint as memory. The earth seemed to hum one final time as if whispering agreement. And somewhere deep in Saada's heart, a voice spoke once more, soft, certain, eternal. Our light is not a curse. It is a beginning. The morning light crept slowly through the tall pines as Saad, Dion, Tori, and the Foundation agents made their way toward the convoy parked beyond the hill. The storm had broken, leaving the world washed clean. Mud glittered like bronze under the rising sun. Tori handed the babies gently into Saada's arms before opening the back door of a black SUV marked Econ Foundation Emergency Response Unit. You'll be safe here, she said. No one outside our network knows this route. F will meet us at the northern compound in spring by nightfall. Saad nodded, still holding her daughters close. The babies slept soundly, their joined breathing perfectly synchronized. Dion climbed in beside her, his hands trembling slightly as he reached toward the twins. May I? Saad hesitated for a second, then allowed him to touch their tiny fingers. The babies responded instantly, one of them curling her hand around his thumb, the other letting out a small sigh that sounded almost like forgiveness. Dion's throat tightened. They know me. They've always known you, Saad said softly. You just didn't see it before. Tori closed the door and signaled the driver. Let's move. The convoy rolled out, leaving the chapel behind like a shadow swallowed by sunlight. The highway ahead glowed faintly with heat. The silence in the car was heavy but not hostile, just the kind that comes when everyone is trying to rebuild what's been broken. Saad watched the passing fields through the window. Her body ached, her mind replaying the events of the night. The light, the miracle, Pastor Eli's madness, and her grandmother's whisper. It all felt too big for her, yet deeply personal. Tell me about F, she said suddenly, her eyes still on the horizon. Tori glanced back from the front seat. F. Alyamide founded the Econ Foundation nearly 40 years ago after her sister, Miriam, was taken by a corrupt medical council. The twins Miriam bore were said to have the same shared heart condition as your daughters. When they died in an illegal separation attempt, F made a vow that their kind would never be stolen again. Saada's grip tightened on the babies. So all of this, has happened before. More times than you can imagine, Tori said. In every generation certain twins are born connected by heart, breath, or spirit. Some call it a curse. F calls it a sign of remembrance. She believes they carry a message humanity refuses to learn. Unity cannot survive division. Dion frowned, his eyes reflecting guilt. So the attacks, the fake court orders, all because people want to use them? For research. Tori nodded. And profit. The fusion of their organs, their brain synchronization. It's rare, almost mythical. Pharmaceutical companies, research labs, even cults see them as either the key to science or the key to prophecy. And when money or fear is involved, love is always the first thing sacrificed. Saad looked down at her sleeping daughters. Then they'll have to go through me first. Tori smiled faintly. That's exactly why F sent me. They drove for hours. Fields turned to industrial outskirts, then back to forest. The twins slept the entire way, the oximeter's soft rhythm matching the low hum of the tires. By dusk, they arrived at a tall gated compound surrounded by cedar trees. The sign read Econ Foundation Private Research and Sanctuary. 2 guards opened the gates, saluting as the convoy entered. The compound itself looked like a small village, clean white buildings connected by cobblestone paths, a clinic on one end, cottages on the other, and a modest chapel in the center. As the SUV rolled to a stop, the front door of the main building opened. A tall woman in a long cream-colored kaftan stood there, her silver hair tied in a neat bun, her skin dark and radiant even in her late 60s. Her presence carried calm authority, the kind that didn't need to demand respect because it already had it. F all you might, Tori said with quiet relief. We made it. F smiled gently and approached the car. I see the light of God still chooses strange messengers. When she looked at Saad, her expression softened. You look like Miriam did the day she walked into my arms with 2 dying children. I prayed never to see that look again, but I see strength in you that she never had the chance to show. Saad stepped out slowly, the babies in her arms. You knew my grandmother? F nodded. She was my sister. The first bearer of the light. The world shamed her, but heaven honored her. It seems her courage found its way to you. Saada's eyes filled with tears. I thought she died in disgrace. No, F said gently, touching her arm. She died keeping her daughters' names out of the hands of those who would have sold their souls for a medical patent. And she asked me to wait, to protect the next pair that carried the same sign. Saad swallowed hard. Then it's me. F smiled. Yes, you and your children. You are what she promised would come. Dion stepped forward, his voice low. And what happens now? F studied him for a moment. Now you learn to stand where you once fell. Your guilt will not save them, but your courage might. He nodded, humbled. Inside, the main hall was warm and softly lit. Nurses in white uniforms passed quietly through the corridors, nodding respectfully to F as they went. She led them into a small nursery room, 2 cribs waiting, gentle music playing, everything spotless. You'll stay here tonight, F said. The world believes you are dead. That's the only reason you're safe. Saad froze. Dead? Tori explained. The Foundation leaked a fake report to the news this morning. A tragic explosion during a confrontation between cultists and law enforcement near the chapel. They'll think all involved perished, including you and the twins. Saad looked at her babies, torn. So, the world won't know they exist? F placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. For now, that secrecy keeps them alive. But one day when they're old enough, their light will have to be seen. That's the purpose Miriam spoke of. What purpose? Saad asked. F's eyes grew distant. To show that healing is not found in perfection, but in connection. These children carry within them a reminder the world keeps forgetting, that wholeness is not the absence of scars, but the courage to live joined to love. The words hung in the air like a prayer. Saad exhaled slowly. Then I'll raise them to carry that truth. And we will help you, F said. But remember, those who hunt this light have not stopped. The pastor's order will crumble, but something deeper funds them. A shadow network that has waited decades to capture what you now hold. Dion looked up sharply. Then we should leave the country. Start over somewhere else. F shook her head. You can't run from destiny. You can only prepare for it. Just then a soft cry broke the stillness, the twins stirring in their crib. One opened her eyes and smiled. F knelt beside them, whispering an old Yoruba blessing under her breath. May your bond never break. May your light never fade. May your mother's courage carry you into generations yet unborn. The babies gurgled softly as if answering. Outside night had fallen again. Crickets sang, the compound lights glowing faintly against the dark. Tori stood by the doorway, arms folded, scanning the tree line. We should double the guards tonight, she said quietly. Something tells me the storm isn't over. F nodded. You're right. The shadows are patient. She turned to Saad. Get some rest. Tomorrow you'll need your strength. There are truths about your bloodline that you must see with your own eyes. Saad hesitated, glancing toward Dion, then back at F. What truths? F smiled faintly. The kind that explains why light always returns where love once lived. As she left the room, Saad looked down at her daughters once more. They had fallen asleep again, one tiny hand resting over the other's heart. Dion whispered, They're safe now. Saad nodded slowly. For tonight. Outside, thunder rumbled far away, distant but deliberate like a warning. And deep in the woods beyond the fence, unseen by the guards, a pair of headlights flickered on. Inside the car, a woman's voice spoke softly into a phone. Phase 1 failed, she said. But the twins are alive. And that means the prophecy still stands. The voice on the other end, a calm, cold man's, replied, then we'll change tactics. The mother won't fight us with weapons. She'll fight with love. And that makes her vulnerable. The woman smiled faintly, her eyes glinting in the dark. Understood. We'll take the love before we take the light. She ended the call. The car's engine hummed quietly. Then, as if echoing Sada's earlier words, the woman whispered to herself, love is always the first thing sacrificed. And with that, the car disappeared into the night. Morning broke over the Eakin Foundation compound in soft gold. Dew clung to the leaves, and the air smelled faintly of rain and hibiscus. The place was peaceful, too peaceful. It was the kind of calm that comes just before a storm remembers its unfinished business. Saad awoke to the twins' small rhythmic breathing beside her. Their cot glowed faintly in the morning light that filtered through the blinds. For the first time in days she'd slept without fear, though her dreams were strange, filled with flashes of a woman singing by a riverbank, her face half hers, half someone else's. When she stirred, she found F seated quietly near the window, reading a weathered journal. You didn't have to watch all night, Saad said softly. F smiled faintly, closing the journal. Old habits. Mothers never really sleep when their children carry the weight of generations. Saad sat up, brushing her hair aside. You said last night there were truths about my bloodline I needed to see. What did you mean? F's eyes darkened with memory. Your grandmother, Miriam, wasn't the first in your line to bear the light. There have been others, every few generations, born from women who choose love in the face of rejection. Each time the world mistakes the miracle for a curse. And each time someone like me must rise to protect it. Saad frowned. So this light, the one that came from the twins, it's inherited? In a way, F said, rising to her feet. It's not blood that carries it. It's compassion. A rare form of courage passed through the women of your lineage. When love meets rejection, the light awakens. It's why your daughters were born joined at the heart. Dion entered then, his shirt freshly pressed, eyes heavy with guilt and hope mixed together. And the men? He asked quietly. What role do we play in all this? F looked at him for a long moment. To choose redemption. Or to repeat the failure. He nodded, unable to meet her eyes. F gestured for them to follow. Come. There's something you both must see. They walked down a long hallway lined with framed photos and documents. The foundation's history. Faces of mothers and twins from decades past smiled from behind glass. African, Caribbean, American, all united by one thing, the quiet dignity of women who refused to abandon their children. At the end of the hall stood a tall steel door with biometric locks. F pressed her palm against the scanner. The light flashed green. The door opened with a soft hiss. Inside was a large archive room, rows of shelves filled with files, tapes, old photographs, and strange sealed boxes. At the center stood a single glass display case. Inside it lay two identical silver bracelets, their surfaces engraved with swirling ancient Yoruba script. Saad stepped closer, her breath catching. What are these? F touched the glass reverently. The first connection. They belong to Miriam's twins, your grandmother's daughters. When they died, their energy, their essence, transferred to these. They've glowed only twice since then. Once the night your daughters were born, and again last night. The bracelets faintly shimmered, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Dion whispered, so that means? It means the covenant has been renewed, F said softly. And that the ones who broke it before will come again to destroy it. Saad turned sharply. You mean the people who attacked us, the ones working with Pastor Eli? F nodded. Yes, but they're just pawns. There's a group older and more powerful behind them. They call themselves the Harvesters. They believe the twins' shared heart is the key to immortality, an ancient legend twisted for greed. They've been hunting light-bearers for decades. Torai entered the room then, her face grim. F, we have a problem. F turned. What is it? Torai held up a tablet, displaying security footage from the outer perimeter. One of our guards, Joyce, didn't check in last night. I ran a facial scan from the highway cameras. Someone identical to her was seen entering a clinic in downtown Houston 3 hours ago. F frowned. Impossible. Joyce is loyal. Torai zoomed in. This isn't Joyce. It's someone wearing her face. Saad shivered. You mean a disguise? No, Tori said grimly. A clone. The room went silent. Dion broke it first. A clone? Like, a copy? F nodded slowly. The harvesters have technology beyond anything we've seen. They've used the DNA of previous twins to create synthetic agents. People who look like those we trust. Saad looked sick. So anyone here could be one of them. Tori's jaw tightened. Exactly. Which means we can't trust anyone outside this room. F turned towards Saad, her face serious. You and the twins must leave tonight. We'll draw them away. I'll give you coordinates for a safe villa in Belize, one of our oldest sanctuaries. You'll stay hidden there until I call for you. Saad shook her head instantly. No. I'm done running. Saad. No, she cut in, her voice firm. If my family has been running for generations, it ends with me. I won't let fear keep my daughter's light hidden. If these harvesters want us, then they'll have to face what that light can do. F studied her, then smiled sadly. You sound just like Miriam. Dion stepped closer, his voice low but steady. She's right. We can't keep hiding. If they're coming, we face them together. F sighed. You don't understand what you're up against. Maybe not, Saad said. But they don't understand what it means to fight a mother. A soft alarm beeped through the intercom, one long tone followed by silence. Everyone froze. Tori swiped her tablet. Motion detectors, Sector 3 North Fence. F's comm mask didn't break, but her voice turned sharp. They found us. Tori drew her weapon and barked into her radio. Teams Alpha and Bravo lock perimeter. No one in or out. But static answered. The lights flickered once, then went out. The room dropped into darkness. Only the two silver bracelets glowed, pulsing brighter now, in sync with the twins' faint coos echoing from the nursery down the hall. F whispered, They're here. Sada's heart thudded. The twins? She bolted for the door, but Tori grabbed her arm. Wait. We don't know who's in the halls. Then move with me, Saad snapped, breaking free. They're my daughters. They sprinted down the corridor. Red emergency lights flickered on, painting everything in crimson. Sirens wailed softly overhead. The walls that had felt like safety last night now felt like a cage. As they rounded the last corner toward the nursery, the door was already open. A woman stood inside, her back turned. At first glance she looked exactly like F. Same height, same silver hair, same cream kaftan. But when she turned, her eyes were hollow, her smile wrong. The fake F cradled one of the twins in her arms. Beautiful, the clone said, her voice smooth and cold. The light always burns brightest before it's harvested. Saad froze, her heart stopping mid-beat. Put her down, she said, her voice low, shaking with rage. The clone tilted her head, studying her. You're stronger than Miriam was. That's good. It makes the ritual more potent. F stepped into the room behind Saad, her eyes narrowing. So it's true, she whispered. They've made one of me. The clone smiled. We made better versions. Before anyone could react, she lifted her free hand. The air around her shimmered, metallic and unnatural, and suddenly every light in the room flared white. Saad shielded her eyes. When her vision cleared, the clone and the baby were gone. Tori cursed under her breath. Teleportation tech, signal scramblers. I can't track her. Sada's scream tore through the hall, raw and primal. My baby. F grabbed her shoulders. They took one but not both. The bond can still lead us to her. Sada's eyes were wild, filled with tears and fury. Then we go after her now. F nodded. We will. But understand this, Saad, what they've done tonight will awaken something ancient. When a bearer's light is divided, the world itself shifts. The darkness doesn't just hunt anymore, it responds. Saad clutched the remaining twin to her chest, her voice shaking. Then let it respond. Because I'm coming for my child. Outside, thunder cracked again, louder, closer. And in a hidden facility miles away, the clone laid the captured twin inside a glass chamber glowing blue. A man in a white coat stepped forward, his voice cold and reverent. Finally, the last light has returned. He placed his palm against the chamber. Begin extraction. The compound erupted in chaos. Alarms wailed through the corridors, lights flickering red like a heartbeat. Rain began again outside, hard and relentless, hammering the metal roofs of the sanctuary. Saad ran barefoot through the hallway, clutching the remaining twin against her chest, her breaths coming sharp and fast. Which way did she go? She screamed over the alarm. Tori, gun drawn, sprinted beside her. I can't trace her teleport signal, it's a phase shift, not a GPS track. F followed close behind, her kaftan soaked from the rain that leaked through shattered skylights. Then we use the old way, she said, voice steady but urgent. The bond between the twins. They burst into the security room. Monitors flickered in static, some showing blurred camera feeds of men in dark armor breaking through the outer gates. The compound's guards were already engaging in a firefight. Tori slammed her fist on the console. We're losing the perimeter. F raised her hand. Silence. Everyone froze. She closed her eyes and began to hum, a deep, melodic tone that seemed to vibrate through the walls. It wasn't a song, it was a resonance, something ancient. The air in the room shifted. The lights steadied. And then, softly, the baby in Sada's arms began to hum the same note. Sada's eyes widened. She's answering you. F nodded, her voice now low and rhythmic. The twin spirit connection can be followed. Where one breathes, the other echoes. She opened her eyes, now faintly glowing amber, and looked toward the window. She's alive. But they've taken her west, toward the city. Dion burst into the room, panting, a rifle slung over his shoulder. They've broken the north fence. Foundation vehicles are compromised. Tori cursed. Then we can't take the main roads. F pointed toward the underground stairwell. There's a hidden tunnel beneath the old storage wing. It leads into the forest and exits by the river 2 miles out. From there we can take a speedboat. Where does it go? Sod asked. F's expression darkened. To a place we swore never to return, the first laboratory the harvesters built before they were outlawed. They've gone back to finish what they started. Dion clenched his jaw. Then we go there. Sod looked at the baby in her arms. The child's small hand glowed faintly now, pulsing like a compass needle. She's leading me, she whispered. She wants to find her sister. F touched her shoulder. Then follow her light, Sod. But know this, what you'll face there is not just human evil. The harvesters tamper with spirit and science alike. They merge what should never be merged. I don't care, Sod said, her voice trembling with fire. They took my child. I'll walk into hell itself if I have to. Tori nodded. Then hell's about to get visitors. The tunnel smelled of damp earth and oil. The only light came from the glow in the baby's hand, flickering across the narrow stone walls. Dion led the way with a flashlight, his grip firm, jaw set. Sod followed close behind, clutching her daughter, with Tori covering the rear, her weapon ready. F moved steadily in the center, whispering prayers under her breath. Old Yoruba invocations that filled the tunnel with an eerie, comforting hum. Halfway through they heard distant rumbling, engines above them. Helicopters. They're moving fast, Tori said. They must know we're tracking. F's voice was calm. Then they also know they've awakened something they can't contain. The tunnel opened onto a riverbank surrounded by thick trees. 2 small speedboats were moored to a rusted dock. Tori jumped in first, checked the fuel and nodded. We're good. They sped down the river, cutting through the mist. The baby's glow brightened whenever they turned the right way, dimming when they drifted off course. Sod stared ahead, her face hard. We're close. Dion adjusted his grip on the rudder. How do you know? Because she stopped crying, Sod said quietly. She only goes silent when her sister's near. 40 minutes later, the river widened into a bay surrounded by overgrown warehouses. Faded signage on one building read Helix Biomedical Research Center. The place looked abandoned, windows broken, walls covered in ivy, but faint blue lights pulsed inside, too rhythmic to be natural. Tori docked the boat quietly. That's it. They moved up the old dock, weapons ready. Rain had started again, falling in silver sheets. The air buzzed faintly like static. Inside the building, everything smelled of antiseptic and ozone. Humming machines lined the walls, new tech embedded inside old ruins. Screens displayed genetic codes and fetal scans. Sada's breath caught when she saw a glass chamber at the center of the room. Inside it lay the missing twin, asleep but alive, wires connected to her small body. Blue fluid swirled around her like fog. Sod ran forward, but Tori grabbed her arm. Wait, there's someone else here. From behind a glass panel, a man stepped out, a tall, pale-skinned figure in a white coat, his eyes cold and expression unreadable. Mrs. Daniels, he said calmly. Finally. You brought the other one. Sada's stomach twisted. Who are you? I am Dr. Keller, director of the Harvester's Genetic Continuity Division. You may not remember me, but your grandmother did. Miriam Daniels was our first subject. F stepped forward, her expression burning with fury. You murdered her children. Keller smiled faintly. We preserved them. There's a difference. And now we will finish what we began, perfect fusion. The conjoined twins' shared heart is the purest genetic design. Through them, humanity can finally achieve eternal cellular regeneration. You want to live forever? Dion spat. You're insane. Immortality always looks like madness to those who fear death, Keller said. He turned toward the chamber. The extraction is almost complete. Once the process stabilizes, the connection between the two will allow us to harness the biolight energy. But if you remove her now, both will die. Sada's hand shook. You're lying. Keller tilted his head. Am I? You saw what happened at the chapel. The power surged, the light. Their connection is both physical and metaphysical. Break it and you'll end them both. F looked from the machines to the glowing baby in Sada's arms. He's telling half the truth. If they're separated by force, yes, they'll die. But if they're joined by will, if the mother commands the bond, it can restore them. Sad looked at F, eyes wide. How? By faith and blood, F whispered. Miriam did it once, but she didn't survive. You might not either. Dion grabbed her arm. No, Sad. There has to be another way. Sad looked down at the baby, then at the one trapped in the chamber. Both glowed faintly, pulses sinking even through glass and fluid. She kissed her child's forehead. If I die saving them, that's life enough for me. Before anyone could stop her, she stepped forward into the center of the room. The glow in both twins intensified until the entire lab shimmered gold. Keller shouted, No. You'll destroy years of research. But Sad didn't hear him. She began to hum, the same melody F had sung in the tunnel, ancient, rhythmic, older than words. The machines sparked violently. Glass cracked. Lightning burst from the ceiling. Sad pressed her palm to the chamber. Come back to me, my love, she whispered. The baby inside opened her eyes. The gold light exploded outward, swallowing everything. For one blinding moment, there was no lab, no machines, no storm, just the sound of two tiny heartbeats becoming one again. Then silence. When the light faded, Sad collapsed to the floor, both babies lying against her chest, reunited, breathing softly. Dion rushed forward, lifting her head. Sad. Sad, wake up. Her eyes fluttered open. They're safe, she whispered. F knelt beside her, tears streaming down her face. You did what no one else ever could. You completed the covenant. Keller, burned and trembling, tried to crawl toward his ruined computers. You fool, you've doomed us all. Sad turned her head toward him, weak but calm. No, doctor. I freed us. Outside, lightning struck the bay. The warehouse walls shuddered. The machines began to implode, sucking in the light until everything collapsed inward. Tori shouted, It's going to blow. Dion scooped Sad and the twins into his arms. They ran, F and Tori close behind, as the entire facility erupted in a column of golden fire. The blast lit the night sky for miles. When the echo faded, all that remained was silence, and the soft cry of two newborns wrapped in light. Back on the riverbank, the survivors watched the horizon burn. F whispered a prayer under her breath. The light has spoken. Dion held Sad close. They'll come again, won't they? F nodded slowly. Darkness never dies, Dion. But neither does light. And as long as these children breathe, the world has a chance to remember what love really means. Sad looked down at her daughters, smiling faintly through tears. Then we'll keep reminding it. The twins cooed softly in her arms, their joined heart glowing faintly beneath the dawn. For the first time since their birth, the world seemed to bow to their light. The ruins of the Helix Biomedical Research Center still smoldered behind them as dawn stretched over the horizon. The river reflected the firelight like liquid gold, carrying fragments of ash downstream, the remains of a secret that had haunted generations. Sad sat on a rock near the water's edge, wrapped in Dion's jacket, her babies nestled safely in her arms. Both twins slept peacefully now, their breathing even, their joined chest rising and falling in the rhythm of one heart. The glow beneath their skin had dimmed to a gentle warmth, like sunset caught in flesh. F and Tori stood nearby, speaking quietly with what was left of the Foundation's field team. The agents were weary but alive, their eyes reflecting a strange mix of awe and disbelief. When Tori returned to Sad, her voice was soft, reverent. The data's gone. Every trace of the Harvester's experiments, wiped clean in that explosion. You didn't just save your daughters. You destroyed everything they built. Sad didn't look up. She brushed her fingers over the twins' tiny hands. Then maybe that means no one else will ever be hunted like this again. F stepped forward, her face calm, though her eyes shimmered with tears. You've ended a war that began long before you were born. Miriam's spirit can finally rest. Saad turned to her slowly. You said last night the world would shift if the light was divided. So what happens now that it's whole again? F's lips curved in a faint, knowing smile. Now the world begins to heal. But healing always starts with truth. They traveled back to the Foundation compound that same day. What was left of it bore the scars of battle, burned walls, shattered glass, but its heart remained strong. The surviving nurses and children greeted them with tears and songs. For the first time since the chaos began, the compound felt alive again. F led Saad and Dion to the restored chapel. It had somehow survived untouched, the same one where the twins' light had first awakened. The sun streamed through the repaired stained glass windows, casting ribbons of gold and blue across the stone floor. Here, F said gently, is where generations of fear ended. It's fitting that this is where their story begins. Saad stepped inside slowly, her daughters cradled against her chest. Their small eyes fluttered open, catching the morning light like diamonds. Dion knelt beside her. What are we supposed to do now? F smiled. Raise them. Teach them to love in a world that still struggles to understand what love really means. That is harder than any miracle. Torai approached with a small box, the same one they'd seen in the archive room, containing the 2 silver bracelets once worn by Miriam's lost twins. She opened it, revealing the bracelets now gleaming faintly with life. They responded to your daughter's energy again, Tori said. They belong with them now. F nodded. It is time. Saad slipped the bracelets around each baby's wrist. The metal adjusted on its own, tightening gently until it fit perfectly. The twins stirred, their hands twitching until their fingers touched. The glow returned, faint but constant. For a long time no one spoke. Then, softly, Saad began to hum, that same ancient lullaby she'd once sung in the hospital, the song of the moon carrying stories on its back. The chapel filled with it, warm and alive. The twins cooed, responding with soft sounds of their own, as though remembering something older than speech. F closed her eyes, whispering a prayer in Yoruba. Emiayatijo J ki imolu one maperi. Ancient spirit of life, let their light never fade. That night, after everyone had gone to rest, Saad stood outside the compound, the twins asleep against her. The stars stretched endlessly above, glittering like the eyes of her ancestors. Dion joined her quietly, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. I don't know how to make up for everything I did, he said. She turned her face toward him, her eyes softer than they'd been in days. Then don't try to erase it. Just walk differently now. He nodded, voice breaking. I will. For them. They stood there in silence, the night wind whispering through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled, not in warning this time, but as if the heavens were exhaling in peace. After a while, Saad looked up at the stars and smiled faintly. F said healing starts with truth. Maybe that's what my daughters are, living truth. Dion followed her gaze. They'll grow up knowing the whole story? Yes, Saad said firmly. They'll know they were rejected by fear but saved by love. They'll know their grandmother's courage and the price that came with it. And they'll know that light isn't given, it's chosen. Months passed. The Econ Foundation rebuilt stronger than ever, now protected by international law. The harvesters' remnants were hunted down and dismantled across 3 continents. F's work finally gained global recognition, though she often reminded reporters that miracles don't happen in laboratories, they happen in hearts that refuse to close. As for Saad and Dion, they became ambassadors for the Foundation's new mission, to protect families of children born different, to challenge fear with compassion. The twins, now named Amara and Zuri, grew quickly. At just 6 months old, they could already sense one another's moods. When one laughed, the other followed. When one cried, the other's tears came unbidden. But their joy was constant, radiant, infectious. People no longer whispered curse when they saw them. They whispered hope. 1 year later, on the anniversary of their birth, Saad stood once more in the restored chapel. The candles flickered softly, and photographs of Miriam and other mothers who had carried the light lined the walls. F, older now but smiling, took Saada's hand. It's time, my child. The story must be told. Saad nodded. She placed her daughter's framed photo on the altar, beneath the plaque that read, "For every mother who was told her love was wrong, and loved anyway." The choir began to sing, a Yoruba hymn of freedom and grace. Visitors filled the chapel, listening to Saad speak about her journey, about loss and redemption, about fear and faith. When she finished, there were no dry eyes in the room. And as she stepped down from the altar, something incredible happened. The twins, sitting with Dion in the front pew, began to giggle softly. Their joined chest glowed faintly, not bright, not showy, but gentle, steady. The light spread up to the stained glass windows, igniting the colors until the entire chapel shimmered. The audience gasped. But Saad only smiled. "That's just them saying hello," she said softly. "They do that when love feels close." That night, when the chapel was empty and the candles burned low, F found Saad standing by the altar once more, watching the fading light. F's voice was warm, tired, proud. "You've done what Miriam couldn't. You turned pain into legacy." Saad turned to her. "No, F. We did." F smiled. "And what will you tell them when they're old enough to ask why they were born joined?" Saad looked down at the twins sleeping peacefully nearby. "I'll tell them that God made them a single heart to teach a divided world how to beat as one." Outside, the moon rose, bright, full, watching. The wind moved through the trees, whispering the old lullaby once more, the same one that had carried through generations. When the world forgets its light, love will return in too. The camera would pull back here if this were film. The chapel glowing faintly under moonlight, Saad and her family framed by peace, the echo of hope humming like heartbeat through the night. And somewhere far away, in a quiet house near the ocean, a young woman watched the story on her screen, tears in her eyes, twin bracelets on her wrists. She whispered to herself, "I thought we were the only ones." And in the reflection of her window, two faint golden lights flickered.